Hello and welcome to Nutrition and Alternative Medicine. I'm JJ Flazanes, your host. Thank you for downloading today's show. Today we're going to talk about the 5 money systems for wealth and prosperity. We've got Melanie Benson back on the podcast. Melanie will also be at the event, and hopefully you got to see our Facebook Live. For those of you that don't have Facebook, I am republishing them on my YouTube channel, which is jjflazanes.tv. We talked about removing money blocks with Lisa Thomas from an energetic, clearing inherited emotional DNA side, and with Melanie from the mindset and structural application of different practices for money. We did about a 30-minute show. We had 2 questions from audience members, one person who's actually coming to the event in September, and another woman who contacted me through Instagram to ask me the question to ask the ladies and for us to address about money and law of attraction. So I hope you'll watch it. You can go to jjflazanes.tv, scroll down to the bottom, and it's the last published video that I have, and it's a little talk show style looking 3 of us on the same camera, and we're going to be doing more of those. So if you're not on the email list and you want to get on the email list, you can, to find out more about that, you can either be part of the manifestation group, or you can actually just go to jjflazanes.com and contact me, and I'll send you the list of when we're going to be doing it again. So you can reach us on Facebook. And it's not just about money. I've got coming up weight loss and aging and hormones and sleeping and vitality and energy with food, and food is medicine. And we're going to be doing more about what your daily rituals look like and why they either help or hurt your progress in all areas of life. That one's coming up actually this week on Thursday with Chris Burns. So would love to see any of you there. If you have questions for any of these different topics that we're doing, you can write in, call in, email me, message me, and I'll be sure to ask them on the show, and then we'll talk about it, and it's like a session, so it's a really great time. So continuing on, Melanie will be at the event, and she'll be doing money in 2 different pieces like she's done here on the show so far. One from like the inside out, from the mental, spiritual place, and one from the outside in. And today is the one, it combines both, but it really is a lot about the outside in, which we can't deny. So if you're interested in learning more, definitely go to melaniebenson.com. There is a link that we'll be talking about later for some free stuff from her, but I definitely recommend checking out Melanie's group on Facebook, Amplify Your Success on Facebook, so go find that. And a little bit about Melanie. I know that a lot of you who've listened to the podcast know who she is. A lot of you are already in that Amplify Your Success group on Facebook. So Melanie Benson is a revenue strategist and business performance optimizer. She's a guide for conscious entrepreneurs ready to accelerate their impact and income by making their business perform 10 times better. With over 12 years experience in corporate America, Melanie specializes in aligning visionary, game-changing entrepreneurs who are emerging as leaders with the most powerful mindset, actions, and strategies that propel them to a level of success they never knew they could achieve. Melanie combines her extensive traditional education. She holds a bachelor's degree in business management and a master's degree in organizational management, with multiple advanced certifications in project management, results coaching, neurolinguistic programming, and even a license as a spiritual counselor to get her clients past their obstacles and into impacting the world in a fulfilling and profitable way. And again, that's melaniebenson.com, but stay tuned to the end of the show and you'll get some other links. If you want to join Melanie and I at the next big step, go to jjflazanes.com/next big step, and we will do this work with you in person. I hope you enjoyed today's show. Welcome back to the show, Melanie.
Hey, thanks for having me, JJ. I'm so excited for where we're going today.
I know, I am too. And for those of you that haven't heard Melanie's first show that she did with us on, it was on the podcast, it was 3 unconscious money barriers. And make sure you go back and check that out, because I know when it comes to this spirit and mindset and physical and alternative medicine, like all of the things that we love to talk about on the shows, that have to do with health. We can't avoid the wealth piece, right? Because the wealth piece is part of the physical experience. And for a lot of you, you love the law of attraction piece, you love the mindset, you love the emotion, that right brain part. And it is really important because how we see ourselves, what we think about, we bring about, where we vibrate is where we attract. And so that piece is really important. But the other piece, it's also super important to make sure that that stuff actually works and you live it, is the integration. And you've heard me talk about that on several shows. I'm all about the mind, body, soul integration. If we're not living it, it's just information that really won't affect your life or change your life. We have to put it in our bodies, in our cells, in our systems. And when it comes to money, it's the same. We can vibrate and think about money in a positive way, but if we're not doing those physical aspects, then we're not attracting at the level that we need to. And so Melanie is that perfect blend for me of money and looking at it from both that spiritual side as well as the structural side. So that first show we did was very much about the emotional and the mental piece, and that's super important to start with. But today we're going to talk about money systems to bring you wealth. We're going to take and we're going to embody now all those principles. And that is why I've chosen Melanie to be at the events. She's going to be at the September event of the next big step. Hopefully she'll be with us in January for also releasing what weighs you down from now on, because the money piece has to be part of this conversation. I know a lot of you want more money. You want more physical stuff, whether it be health or wealth, and we have to integrate. So with that said, Melanie, start us off with your sort of belief, the way that you coach, the way that you teach, and what I just talked about and how you feel about that and how you think that's best facilitated.
Yeah. Oh, I love this conversation. And it might help if I just back up slightly and say that I came to all of these teachings and these principles and the systems that I use because I came into running my own business in 2001 having really bad habits around money and not having anything that was taught to me to be able to be a good shepherd of the financial flow through my business. And this goes back eons, back when I was in corporate days. I made really good money. And interestingly enough, JJ, I never had any money. It was like it just slipped right through my fingers. And that's because many of us, and this definitely happened for me, is we embody the financial habits that we witness from our parents and from other influential people in our lives. And so I literally just emulated everything that my parents unconsciously taught me about money and what I witnessed them doing around money. And so that's where a lot of our patterns come from. And so as I got into business, my first couple of years were really tough. I mean, everything was going out. There wasn't a lot coming in. And then even when I did create massive success, I had a high six-figure business. I was cresting the seven figures. And yet there was still a lot of, do we really have enough money to go to that next level? And I realized it was all a pattern. It was all a conditioning of my deepest core beliefs about money. And so what I realized was I was actually missing some systems that felt congruent with being a creative spiritual being. Like us creatives, we want to do the things that light us up. We want to be in the energy of the superpowers and the genius that we have. And so when it comes to having the money conversations, all of our old stuff comes up. We have those limiting beliefs, we have fears, we have bad habits. And so we end up sabotaging all of this hard work we do. And so that's kind of the backstory of how I got to this, is literally creating a massively successful business and then losing most of it because of not having the right systems in place. So my philosophy is that money is energy, and we can create as much of it as we want, or we can limit it based on the energetic relationship we have with money. And what I find is that our core beliefs, the deepest, probably unconscious, most of us are not actually conscious of our beliefs about it, whatever we have as a vibrational relationship with money and success is exactly what we're creating. And so I love working with people doing big breakthroughs. I do these money DNA breakthrough sessions with people all the time where we figure out what is the vibration they're holding around money. And then do we start with the outer, which is what we're referring to here today as the systems and the structure of money, or do we need to start with the inner? And based on where you're coming from with money, it can actually make a huge difference to either start with the outer or start with the inner. And you can start with the inside out game, meaning you shift the inside and you actually create the vibration of abundance or financial wealth or whatever that thing is you're wanting to attract more of. And we'll do 2 of those systems today. Or we have to start with the outer, which means if we create all this good stuff inside, but we still don't have the external systems in place, we'll still see money flowing out faster than it flows in and feel frustrated. And so we'll cover 3 of those systems today.
I think I'd like to start with the outside in,
Okay.
because the last show we did was inside out.
Yeah, totally.
And so to give it a nice bookmark, if you will, like we started with the inside out. And so people have been ruminating on that and incubating on that. I know a lot of people come over to your community, the Amplify Your Success community on Facebook, and join that to learn more and get more from you about that inner work. And so I really feel like I want to just provide that structure, and then we can cap it off to remind people about that, what's next with the inner work. How do you feel about that?
I love it. I love it. Okay, so I want to actually use some of the principles I teach in my Money DNA Mastery program for the systems, because I find that knowing what to do differently, it's almost like we have to up-level our habits, and using a system that works, and maybe you have to customize a few things to fit your unique energy and your unique flow, that's fine, but kind of having a foundation to work with can make all the difference between being successful and feeling like you're flailing with it. And the first one, and I actually learned this back in, when I worked for someone else and I was an employee, but I didn't really embody it, which means I didn't make it a habit. It's like I knew what to do, but I wasn't actually doing it. And that is knowing your flow. And I'm talking about cash flow. So if you are working for someone else, this can be much easier, right? Because us entrepreneurs, sometimes you don't really know what's going to come in and come out, but you definitely know almost always what's coming in when you work for someone else. And so what that means is you have to actually go learn the details of what's going in and what's going out. And it's amazing to me, JJ, how many people do not know this fundamental information. As an entrepreneur, it's dangerous and irresponsible to run your business if you don't know this, because I've watched 7-figure, massively successful, top of their game business owners completely combust and implode because they didn't know their numbers. And I think for some people, and there's actually a Money DNA blueprint, JJ, of someone I call the avoider. And that's because they avoid really knowing what's happening in their financial world, because if they pay attention, then they actually have to tell themselves the truth about their situation and do something different. And so it's just easier to avoid it. And this is what the system is that has to replace that avoidance approach. And that is every month or every week, you literally need to sit down and know what's coming in and what needs to go out. And where am I at with that? Like, do I need to pull back on what's going out and make some new decisions? Do I have more than enough and I can move some of that into a fund account or into an investment? But literally just having a ritual where once a week or once a month, depending on how your cash flow works, you sit down with your numbers and get clear. Where am I at? Instead of just doing the blind, all right, so I got to write all these checks or I got to pay all these bills and I hope it all works out. And then you just kind of shove it all under the rug. That one system alone, if you do nothing else from today's conversation that we're having, it will transform your relationship with money. Yes, it may not be the picture you want to see, but that's information. We can do something about that. And when I'm working with my entrepreneur clients, JJ, and I know you face this too, I know you bump up against this with your clients, when they don't know what's coming and going, I don't know how to help them repair and or level up their cash flow if they don't even know what they have, right? It's like, I just want more. Well, that's ambiguous. Let's get clear how much more and what can we do specifically to create that?
Absolutely. And I want to speak to this because I know that a lot of spiritual people are avoiders when it comes to money. And I'm definitely guilty of that. And I have been in the past. And what I realized, even though I was getting money and using law of attraction and I was attracting things, there was a part of me that had shame, and that's definitely something that comes up for people, and how I leverage that or use law of attraction to get over that, if you will, is to really think about what was it that I needed to have to feel comfortable, rather than saying, okay, I feel bad about this because it makes me feel unsuccessful, or like it's my worth, or like if I compare myself to others, because that's the stuff that comes up when you look at it. Like
Yeah.
it's a reality check. So I understand why people avoid it. I did too. And so to get over that for what I did, and maybe you can speak to your recommendations after I share my story and how maybe other things that have worked for people or you. And everyone, Melanie is a Taurus. Let me just say, so Taurus people, now I know that you had to deal with your own stuff around money, but honestly, astrologically, Taurus are great with money. You guys are like savers, and you plan, and you want to feel secure in your foundation. Those of us that are water signs and fire signs and air signs, like maybe not so much our strength. Foundation is not part of like fun, movement, energy is sort of where we go. So when it came to looking at my stuff, when I recognized that, I was like, okay, I can't avoid this any longer. Who is going to help me? I thought to myself, what do I need? The first step is that I need somebody who loves me as I am and will not judge me, and will already thinks I'm great and has already seen some of my numbers, because I had shame about that. And then I thought, and I needed to be weekly, and I need to have them hold my hand and check in, and we need to do this on a regular basis. And then the other fun thing was I need to be able to pay in food and wine. So so back then it was like, it was obvious who that person was. It was a client of mine who actually used to work for the IRS, who was an accountant, and who was just happy. In fact, he didn't want me to pay for dinner. Like, it was like their best deal ever. But it was one of those. And once I got over those barriers of the shame of the person who was going to look at my numbers, and the fact that I need structure, I need accountability. You can't just teach me how to do it and say, okay, good luck. It's not part of my regular routine. I need structure and accountability to make it part of my regular routine. That's definitely what I talk about with people when it comes to exercise and in life coaching and relationships. Like, if you're trying to get a new skill, don't think because you learn it, it's automatically going to integrate into your life. That's what the whole coaching and accountability is for. So I put all those pieces together, and then I actually got very excited. I went from feeling shame and dismay and sad and embarrassed to getting super excited, because I'm like, okay, this person loves me. It doesn't matter what that number says. He thinks he adores me anyway, and I'm good. so that's what worked. That's what worked for me to get me in like the deepest shame and despair, to finally say, I need help with someone on my numbers on a regular basis to get me back.
Yeah, I love that. I should probably combine 1 and 2, because the systems really go together. But let me just say, this first system, it can be as simple as having an appointment with yourself every week or every month. That's how simple this system is for step 1. Because step 2, we're going to talk about another kind of tool to use. But I love that you were having accountability with an accountant. I have accountability with my bookkeeper and my accountant. So we have different accountability. But having an appointment with yourself is actually the single most important thing you do. So you may need to have a coach that holds you accountable to that. That's certainly one of the things we do in Money DNA. There's also tons of just finance coaches out there that can embrace you and say, hey, you've got accountability every week. So find what works for you. And sometimes it's with your spouse or with a really good friend, holding your feet to the fire. I'll also share another resource. I was going to share it in number 3, but it feels appropriate here. And there are Debtors Anonymous groups that this is what they do for you. They hold you accountable to the financial commitments you're making to yourself. So you can find what works for you. But let me go into number 2, and I'm going to call it being above board, and then tell you what the system is. So what does it mean to be above board? It means you're not hiding out, and you're not being the ostrich with your head in the sand, hoping that it all blows over and works out. It means that you're committed to showing up and being an excellent financial shepherd. I like to think of it as being a steward or shepherd, because listen, if money's energy and it's flowing all the time, it's your job to get grounded and allow that money to flow through you. And I'm saying through you because we don't necessarily hold on to it all. We reinvest it. We move it into the investments we want to make to grow and to become better versions of ourselves. Money that stagnates because you hold on to it, you can actually strangle the expansiveness of prosperity if you try to hoard it and hold on to it too much. So I'm not saying you get rid of it all. I'm saying you need to invest it. You need to have a purpose for it. And so getting above board means you are absolutely crystal clear where the flow of money needs to go in order to continue to expand your magnificence, your lifestyle goals, and to give back or whatever other goals you have for your financial flow. So one of the systems that works for me around this is I use QuickBooks. And that's the business side of it. There's also Quicken on the personal side. But I needed a tool that actually helped me automate where my money's going. Now, some people really need to dig in and do this manually. My husband's that way. You might as well give me a root canal if I was going to do it manually, right? Like I need that automation. It makes me, it uses my time more effectively. But having a system that, okay, this is where my money's supposed to be going, this is what money's supposed to be coming in, helps you make sure the picture you're looking at is accurate. So are you an automation person, JJ, or do you like to kind of do more manual so you can really be with your numbers?
Yeah, no, that's been the problem is that I've been avoiding the numbers. In fact, this year made I have a coach. I have a tutor, I guess, if you will, a tutor right now to teach me. I've got QuickBooks Premier for accountants. Okay. Anyway, I have the absolute hardest version of QuickBooks ever. And I now have it on my computer because I was paying for the monthly online and I wasn't using it. Now I like the automation part of it where once you label things every year, pretty much those same expenses, which I get all the time, already get labeled and I don't have to do anything. So it gets easy. But but financially I was paying $50 a month for something I don't use, but twice a year. And I didn't think that was a smart financial move. So I thought, fine, I'm going to learn how to do it manually because it's one of those things I feel like I do need to accomplish and overcome. I've learned how to video edit. I've learned how to audio edit. I know how to podcast. I know how to do really hard things that doesn't make any sense why I can't learn how to use QuickBooks. So that's my goal this year. And I definitely love automation, but I also feel like sometimes, I want to be able to know how to do it, but I don't have to be the one doing it in the long run. I just have to know. It's like editing, right? People say, why don't you send your audios to an editor? And there's a lot of reasons why I don't want to do that yet. And part of it is because of the content in the middle of the shows. I don't expect anyone to have my brain to know what I do and don't want to share if we happen to go down a road on a show that I don't want to talk about. So I'm happy to edit my own shows right now. But in the future, when I have more than I can handle, I'll absolutely delegate that and be able to say, here, you take care of it. But I like knowing that I know how to do it. So I don't feel stuck or reliant or dependent on someone else to do it for me and I'm in the dark. And for a long time, I've been in the dark. I've got an accountant, I've got a bookkeeper, they do everything. And I'm not as involved. So I feel like there's a learning in that for me.
Yeah. And I think, I want to come back to every personality is different, right? Like there are people who you need to be in the depth of your money and be in the details and really like you have to develop that mastery before you can delegate and automate some of it. And then there are people where they're really good with that. They already have a good relationship with money. They just need help managing it. And so you have to know where you're at to know what level of this system you should say yes to. But let me give you the simplest version. The simplest version is have clear understanding of where you want your money to flow to, meaning I'm going to be putting this percentage into investments. I'm putting this percentage into reinvesting into my business growth. I'm putting this percentage into a fund account, which you should have, by the way. We don't want to always be about work. This percentage goes into my salary, and I'm talking about business, but translate that into if you work for someone else, how you would pick the places your money needs to flow to. See, money follows your command. And when you're really clear and your vibration is super high, it's like, I'm creating wealth in order to give back to this charity, to, fund this expansiveness in my life. Energy responds to that. But if you're not clear, either it doesn't come in or it just flings out like it's just leaking out of your systems because you're not clear where it needs to go. And that's when you find that you struggle with not having enough and or not really having that mastery. So the simplest system is get clear where you want it to go. And then the next level is use some tools, get QuickBooks, get Quicken. There's also mint.com, which is a really simple, there's a free level to it that you don't even have to pay for. It's the simplest thing you can do to get yourself organized.
Have you used You Need a Budget?
I've not used that one.
It's very interesting. And the two people one person told me about it and she's having a great time with it. Then I told the other person about it and she's having a great time with it. Then I tried to use it and then I'm like, my brain is not working that way right now. So anyway, I thought it's a great app for some people that have had really good success with it. But talking about where money goes, back in like 2005 7 maybe, I had taken a course and been at a workshop about wealth and wealth management and things like that. And the idea of the percentages of where you're sending your money to. And I remember I then created like a couple bank accounts and I labeled them like what they were for. They were for investment, or they were for fun, or they were for charity. And just because I opened up all these, and I'm not suggesting this is a good thing to do, but when I did it back in October of whenever that was, I had like the best month ever, because all of a sudden I had all these containers ready to be filled.
Yes.
And I got clients out of the blue, and I made more money that month than I ever had prior to that. So I had that decision, that energy of I'm going to put it here. And so I'm going to create space for that, helped it to show up.
Beautiful. I love it. It's so perfect. I want to talk about number 3, because number 3 it's sometimes the thing that is the fear, and there's so many misconceptions and shame and bad feelings about this particular system, and that is facing your debt. So even debt, like it's like one of those 4-letter words that people get really uncomfortable with, and sometimes feels like, there's a lot of layers around it. And so there's 2 things I want to say about that. One is like, we need to change our paradigm especially about growth debt. There's growth debt, and then there's irresponsible debt, right? It's just, you're just throwing money out there and you're accumulating debt for no reason. But I want to also tell you the system that changed my life. So facing debt basically means, again, if you're an avoider, you're not avoiding looking at how much debt you're in. I can't tell you, JJ, how many people have come into Money DNA Mastery, or even just to work with me as a client, for me as their coach, where they had this enormous debt that was lurking over there on the side and driving so many of their decisions in an irresponsible and erratic way. And I relate to that because at one point in my business, my debt was $200,000. Like, I get it. Like, I get how oppressive and overwhelming that was. And so I, first of all, had to really reconstruct my paradigm of debt. And so personal debt, and this can oftentimes be irresponsible debt, is where you are basically buying things that you can't afford to create a certain lifestyle. Now, if you live in California, it's kind of hard not to do that, right, JJ? It's like,
yeah,
it's expensive to live here. And so, yes, sometimes you're going to accumulate a little debt. But I think when you are incurring debt, you just need to know, what level of debt can I get into before I cannot pay it off? And that's the responsible level. It's like, all right, so if I have $10,000, I know I can pay that off in 3 or 4 or 6 months. But if I've got $50,000 in debt, I have no idea how to pay that off. That puts you in an irresponsible place. And so having a responsible conversation with yourself about, am I investing in something now that I need because, it's like it's a health need, or it's a vacation that's going to recharge me, but I have a plan to pay it off. That's more like in the line of what I think we need to do if we're going to debt. But business debt. So I want to talk about business debt for a minute. Business debt, if you are investing in your growth, I feel that oftentimes we take our beliefs about personal debt and we transfer them to business debt, and then make ourselves very, very wrong for investing in growth. And that's more like, I'm investing in a house and it's going to take me, 20 years to pay it off, versus I'm just buying random stuff that I don't really need, but I'm doing it to have a lifestyle and I have no idea how I'm going to pay it off. So when it comes to business, I want you to really shift. If you're in a business and you're holding back from growing because you're afraid to go into debt, you're using the wrong mindset. Okay. So I just wanted to kind of shift the paradigm for a minute about debt when it comes to business, and really get clear about debt when it's unnecessary because you're trying to keep up with a lifestyle.
I think that's a great point, because definitely I have business debt, and I've thought about that in the past because I've taken and leveraged personal funds to help the business, and realized that, and I had some kind of shift in the last couple of years that said, all right, well, then you're going to reverse it and the business is going to pay you back, and then the business is going to hold the debt. And it was just one of those, of course you're going to invest. It's like going to school, right? You're going to invest in college or a degree or some kind of education that you might be paying for a little while, but it's in order for you to expand and grow. So I think it is a really important point to make that there are different kinds of debt, that all debt's not the same, because there are people, a friend of mine, in fact, who couldn't wait to get out of debt and wouldn't really invest. And I thought, well, you're going to have to invest in your business if you want to grow at some point. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck. And debt, why would you think all debt's created equal? So I'm really glad you're bringing up number 3. And your recommendation was Mint. Was that for debt, or that was just being above
That
board?
was for number 2, to get above board and know, where your money needs to flow. But for number 3, there's a couple different ways you can use a system. I have a system in the Money DNA Mastery program that's how to assess your debt and get out of debt. Because ultimately, I don't want you carrying debt, even if it is for the business. You do need a game plan of how to move out of that debt, because it does feel oppressive and it does feel like it's looming. And, especially if you've got high interest rate, it's kind of a waste of money, right? So in Money DNA, what we do is we literally use a little spreadsheet to calculate and track where are your debts. So do you have different credit cards? Do you have personal loans from the business? And you outline them and you figure out what the interest rate is and how much you're going to pay back every month. And then here's the key: you automate it so that you're not sitting there focused on your debt every month. You set it up so that it gets pulled out of your business or it gets pulled out of your personal accounts. And yes, you may need to assess it every 3 months to see where you're at. But what I want is to move people out of this obsessive, overwhelming, oppressive feeling like, I got to pay my debt off. I got to pay my debt off. I got to get out of debt, which creates angst. And angst and stress is constricting, which does not allow you to be in the most expansive, creative, prosperous version of yourself. So you've got to really face your debt, look at where you're at, come up with a plan, and then automate the plan. And then you check in on it every 2-3 months to make sure things aren't shifting. And I use my bookkeeper to help me manage and make sure that those debts are being paid. If we have more money, we put them into the highest interest rates first. And that's the system to get what I say, like, congruent and in integrity with what you've borrowed to grow your business, and or, if you've leveraged money to build a lifestyle, or you had to pull from debt in order to take care of some priorities in the personal side. That happens. But you just want to get above board, figure out where you're at, and have a plan to pay it off. And that's what brings the tension down. It allows you to kind of breathe and go, okay, I know what I'm doing with this now.
Right. I think that's great. And part of I know for some of you, especially when the word spreadsheet comes in, or when, right, or some of this is just really triggering for a lot of people because it isn't in their wheelhouse, their strength of like what I do. And so it just keeps that's the reason why you avoid it, because it makes you feel bad, which I totally understand. But we can't solve a problem unless you know what it is. And
exactly.
So the initial part, which you might need hand holding. I've needed hand holding, and I probably still need hand holding. I still have the tutor, and I'm still going to learn how to do this QuickBooks, and I may continue to pay for someone to freaking go through it with me on a monthly basis until I get it and I feel comfortable with the program and I'm feeling more excited. And but we all, in different areas of our lives, we have our strengths and our weaknesses. And when we have a place where we keep avoiding because we feel bad, we get triggered, and it's not our strength, we can't keep avoiding it forever. It will catch up. It's not balanced, and it's time to look at it, which is why we're having this conversation today. So
I love that you just said that, JJ. It's so empowering, and to realize that, you're, first of all, you're not alone. Gosh, there's so many people that struggle in this part. We didn't go through a class in grade school called How to Be Good with Money, right? Like, we just kind of mirrored what our parents taught us or didn't teach us. And, I know that I actually came into my business very weak in this area, and it crippled me for a while. And one of the single best things I did was I made a decision about 2.5 years into my business that I was going to develop the muscle called excellent money management. I just decided, like, if I want to be free of some of my past limitations and I don't want to let fear run my life, then I'm going to decide right now who I'm going to be with money. And it's taken different forms. And I kind of believe that, when we have bad patterns and we don't face all those patterns, or somebody doesn't reveal to us in our dark, room in our mental house, like, okay, you kind of got these old patterns here you need to clean up. Yeah, we're going to need to take different steps at different times. But one of the things, and I want to talk now about the two kind of what we might say internal systems, because these internal systems partner really well with the external systems, so that, as you're saying earlier, JJ, you were feeling shame, and we start comparing ourselves and like, oh my God, look how successful that person is, and blah, 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 right? Like that inner talk is crippling. And so to really feel good about stepping into those systems and like, okay, I'm not good with spreadsheets. That's okay. I'm either going to have someone help me, or, what level of resourcefulness do I need to step into to be the best version of me as a money manager, right? So the next system, we'll call it system number 4, that's the inner system, is really up-leveling your self-talk about money. And I'm so glad you brought it up earlier, because you're basically using the words that many of us feel, but we don't say out loud. We get triggered. We get, we get these old patterns running us, and we don't realize it. And it's simply because our self-talk is not constructive, and it's crippling our desire to level up our game. And so I'll give you a couple of examples of self-talk. I want to talk about the comparison one, because it happens so often, especially when you step into the world of entrepreneurship, because you see all these people talking about this amazing stuff they're creating. They've got 6-figure businesses. They've got 7-figure business. They've got 8-figure businesses. And you're like, mine's not even a 50K business. What am I doing? Well, that comparison is a self-talk. What's wrong with me? Why can't I figure this out? I must be broken. I'm never going to get this right? Like all these little messages we give to ourselves do not build us up. Imagine, would you talk to your child that way? Would you talk to a friend that way? Would that be the version of you that shows up for others? Probably not. So we have to be the best version of ourselves, and we have to talk to ourselves and recognize when those old thought patterns are surfacing that cause us to constrict, and say, what would a more empowering thought be? What would be a powerful thought that would actually support me in being the best money manager version of me? And you may not even know what that is right now. And we'll talk more about this at JJ's event. There's resources out there that help you learn to talk to yourself. And JJ, if it's okay, later I can share a free resource that people can tap into now. But you've got to rebuild your thought patterns if you want to create new results on the outside.
Agreed. And I also think, and I don't know what number 5 is, but I think when that also needs support, like in every step of this, I don't see it as you're going to learn this and then expect to automatically start doing it. If this is a challenge, then here's where to start. But I would always recommend, because that's what I need support. I need support to make this a habit, because it's not. And I can keep learning more and more information and concepts and from all kinds of people and go, oh my God, I need that. Oh my God, that's right. Oh, I wish I could do that. But until you start doing it and find a way, pay for it, show up, join a group, get in a mastermind, hire a coach, hire Melanie, hire me, whatever, come to the event. You have to do something that's going to start making this happen, because again, these are amazing points. And if you're that self-starter who can do it, that's awesome. But if you've been struggling this for a while, it's time to feel that support from a group, to know that you're not alone. We all do this, and everybody needs support.
Yeah, I love that. And you're right. Everybody does need support, and support can look different. But there's that old saying that you can't solve a problem with the same level of thinking it was created. That's why coaches are here for you, is to help you create new strategies that you wouldn't think of on your own, because they're not congruent with the level of thinking that created that problem. So let me give you the system. I realized I didn't give you the system for number 4 yet. And then we'll get into number 5, because it is one of my favorite. It's so easy and it's so fun, and it's a really awesome system. But number 4, the system is recognize the negative or constricting or limiting thought that's coming up and flip it. So I like to teach people to take out a piece of paper and write down all the thoughts you're having about your money's picture. So it could be, I'm stressed, I'm angry, I feel limited, I don't feel capable. Like, what are all the belief systems you're having? And then take those belief systems and try to reshape them. And again, you're going to need some support if you've been with these a long time. Happy to help you if you need it. But you literally take those and you flip them to, all right, now if I always think I'm not as good as so-and-so, then maybe the new thought is, I am perfect the way I am. Maybe that's the thought pattern that if you hold on to that, it will start to make you feel more peaceful. And then maybe eventually it will evolve into, I'm amazing at what I do. And I choose to see that and embrace that, right? So you can't always jump into the most positive version when you've been in a negative version for a long time. Another one, JJ, that comes up all the time is, I suck with money, right? Like, let's just face it. We tell ourselves that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe the next step is, I'm willing to be better with money. Just be willing to be better with it. You don't even have to claim you're perfect at it yet. And then maybe the next leap, the ultimate flip would be, I'm an amazing steward of my money. And so I don't expect you to jump into that perfect, expansive picture if you've been stuck in these old limiting patterns for a long time. But we call them building bridges. Build a bridge from where you're at right now to the feeling state, the thought pattern that you can wrap your head around, that's moving you towards the ultimate, most expansive version.
And in law of attraction terms, it would be called shortening the gap between where you are and where you want to be. And another thing that would be great to say is, I'm looking forward to being good with my money. Yes.
Love that.
Yes. I'm looking forward to being an excellent steward of my money. And then you get to say, because that is true no matter where you are, right? You can make that definitely a truth. And then as you get closer, you can claim, I'm an excellent steward of my money.
Yeah, that's a great one. I love that. So let's get into number 5. And this is something I have every one of my clients do the first month they start working with me, because what it does is it creates a energetic frequency shift. It creates the energy of that which you want. And it is a morning ritual. See, what I noticed for myself when I've been in really low times and I've been hardest on myself is my morning routines were crap. Like, maybe I'd turn on the TV, or coffee would come before my nutrition, or, it's like my night's sleep wasn't great. And so my mind was spinning with all these negative thoughts, and we bring those negative vibrations into the start of our day. And it's just a snowball. It's a dark vortex that opens up and sucks us in. And if you're one of those people who are prone to depression and anxiety, this is really critical. So in my work, what I like to do is have you start your day with a really powerful morning ritual. And it can be as short as 5 minutes or as long as an hour or two. It depends on what's right for you and what fits in your flow, right? Like, not everybody works from home and can craft 2 hours in their morning to level up their game. So it could be as simple as you get up, and while you're rising, before you even lift your head off the pillow, you say to yourself the intention for your day. You use some of these new self-talks to set an impression for the kind of day you're creating. And especially if you've got some tough things to tackle in your day or some activities you're not looking forward to, this is so important to get your energetic vibrational state in a more expansive place before you even enter into the day. And then, this is a really big topic. There's all kinds of things you can do with exercise. If you don't have time for exercise, run in place for 30 seconds or a minute just to get the blood flowing. That oxygenation of your cells has a huge impact over everything you do the rest of your day. And I also like to, and this will fit up right up your alley, JJ, but I really am a really huge fan of getting high quality nutrition into your body when you're starting your day, and not having any kind of caffeine or anything like that until you've fueled up your body properly. And again, it's all about the frequency you're creating. Now, we're all wired differently. I've learned a lot lately about gene mutations and, some of the things that we're born with that make us need certain things in food and fuel. But you got to get to know your body and know what works. But I can tell you, sugary stuff or skipping breakfast altogether is really hard on your focus, because later you'll be cloudy, you'll be, not focused properly, you'll get tired. And what that does is it starts to feed into all of your limiting beliefs. And so we've got to create the physical expression of high vibration, highly successful, great money management, right? Like, as you start your day, so that your actions match that physical level of success.
Well, of course, I'm about all of that on all levels. That's actually what we do at our 30-day manifestation challenge, is to start your day increasing the level of your frequency through visualization, meditation, and everything else that we're doing. But I love that you even brought in, of course, food, and of course what you're going to eat, and talk to yourself and think about, and all of that is super important for creating that expansive way of attracting better things into your life. So of course, that's absolutely
It's right up your alley.
right up my alley. Right. We're doing that right now. We're right in the midst of a 30-day challenge, and people are doing great. And it doesn't even have to be that long. It could be a 5-minute meditation. It could be an 8-minute visualization. It could be a 30-second visualization. If it's powerful enough to activate you, you want to stay there for at least 30 seconds, but definitely many ways to get that job done. So I know we've given you a lot today in terms of money systems, and Melanie is a resource that is overflowing with things that to provide for you in terms of help and assistance and support. So Melanie, why don't you give them that free thing you were going to tell us about?
Yes. So this is going to be changing soon. So jump in and get it as soon as you can. It's a book that I wrote called Rewired for Wealth. And in it, it talks about those different blueprints that we have about like how we're wired for money and success, but it also talks about my own personal journey of how I rewired my mind so that I was expanding around money and success instead of constricting and having to face all of those old patterns and rewire them. And so, this might be fine tuning for you. It's like, okay, I just want to get to that next level. I've got it handled. Or it might be, I'm so not even close to having great money habits and I don't even know where to start. It's a really simple read. It's very inspiring, and it'll give you some great practices just to kind of get yourself flowing in a more expansive way around money and success. And so it's at rewiredforwealth.com.
Perfect. Everyone go and get that. Also tell them again, for those that didn't hear your first show, about your group on Facebook.
Oh, sure. Oh, I love this group on Facebook. It's Amplify Your Success Community.com. And we get to talk about a lot of this stuff, and I'll share resources in there. And a lot of times there's free resources and exclusive resources I don't share with my list or in other places. And it's a really amazing group of thought leaders and influencers and emerging experts and people who really want to make a difference through their work.
And of course, Melanie will be debuting her relationship in our tribe in person at the Next Big Step in September, where we're going to do all of the things that we've talked about on both of these shows live in person, some of these exercises, and we're going to go a lot deeper than we can go here, obviously, in less than an hour on a podcast, because we'll be in person. So if you know it's time to look at your money a little bit differently and you need that accountability, support, and community, and you want to do it in person and have your hand held, make sure to go check out the Next Big Step. You can go to jjflizanes.com, click on events. It's there. And we also can do a virtual ticket. I'm going to offer something that I didn't offer in January. And so make sure to stay tuned. Go check out the video that will be there in about a week. And you can check out what the offer is going to be for those of you that buy the virtual ticket. So Melanie, you will be back. This conversation is not over. This relationship continues. You are our go-to money person. So thank you again for all of your wisdom, expertise, and support.
Thank you for having me. I love this community you've created, and I'm so inspired to share at the event. So we'll see you there.
Can't wait.